Today, we're taking you on a journey, not just looking at documents, but into a truly harrowing story. It unfolded on a Greyhound bus, really under the vast Canadian sky. Our mission, well, it's to carefully recount what happened that day, starting with Tim McLean's life, which was full of promise, and then exploring the horrifying way his journey ended and the really perplexing aftermath. We're drawing all the details and the sources we have to give you the full picture. So Tim McLean, he was just 22, born October 3rd, 1985, in Manitoba, Canada. People described him as incredibly active, athletic, loved sports adventures. You know the type. Spontaneous, outgoing, social, just widely liked. In the summer of 2007, his friend Tiffany called him up, kind of spontaneous thing. Said, hey, pack a bag, let's hit the road, join this traveling carnival touring Canada, no real plan. And Tim, well, he was great at it, found a real knack for the carnival work, the interaction with people. He loved that free-spirited lifestyle, ended up staying for a whole year. But then, summer 2008 rolls around, he's 22 now, and he decides, okay, time for a change. He wanted to settle down, move to British Columbia, get a permanent house, a steady job, maybe start a family down the line. He realized the traveling carnival life, well, it wasn't for him long term. The carnival was moving from Edmonton to Regina at the time. And Tim saw this as his chance to leave and just head home to Winnipeg. It's a pretty long haul, a 24-hour bus journey, or I guess a quick 2-hour flight. His friends actually offered to pool their money, get him a plane ticket. But Tim, being Tim, didn't want them spending their cash. So he said, no, I'll take the bus. The Greyhound. So July 30th, 2008, 1 minute past midnight, Tim McLean boards the 1170 bus heading to Winnipeg. His 24-hour trip home to grab a seat near the back like he usually did, a couple rows in front of the toilets.
And it's just chilling, isn't it? How such an ordinary decision, taking that familiar seat, how it unknowingly sets the stage for something so profoundly disturbing. This case really challenges our understanding of, well, human behavior, safety, the justice system, in ways few others do. And I should say, this is going to be a difficult story to hear. It left a deep scar on everyone involved.
So the bus journey continues, makes a few stops along the way. Tim's asleep in the back. It's been nearly 17 hours by this point. Around 6:55 p.m., they pull into Erickson, Manitoba. Some more passengers get on, but the bus isn't packed or anything. Plenty of empty seats. Tim's still asleep. Later, there's a meal break. Kim gets off, grabs a bite, gets back on. But when people reboarded, that's when things felt off. There was this man, Vincent Li, middle-aged looking, Chinese, shaved head, tall, wearing sunglasses. He boarded back in Erickson. He initially sat near the front. But then he gets up and walks slowly all the way to the back, really slowly, like he's studying every single person. And here's the really chilling part. Tim McLean apparently was the only person who even acknowledged him. Just a simple hi as he passed. And despite the bus being maybe half empty, lots of free seats, Vincent Li chose to sit right next to Tim. Tim, probably just being friendly or maybe tired, didn't make a fuss. Just went back to sleep, head against the window.
And you have to wonder, what were other people seeing? Even then, his behavior was already raising flags.
Yeah, that's a really important point. The eyewitness accounts, they paint a picture of someone acting very strangely, even before anything violent happened. This man, Lee, he was holding a roll of toilet paper, just constantly holding it, never put it down.
The whole time.
The whole time. And he had this big 2-liter iced tea bottle. To drink from it, he'd have to tuck the toilet roll under his chin just to free up his hands. It was awkward, noticeable. Then, after maybe half an hour, he started rocking, backwards and forwards, and chanting, muttering under his breath in some language nobody recognized.
And the bus was dark at this point.
Right, dark. No main lights, just the little TV screens glowing, people trying to sleep. But he kept his sunglasses on the entire time. Inside the dark bus, it just screams disconnection, a world completely apart from everyone else on that bus. And then it just happened. Suddenly, around 8:20 p.m., passengers nearby saw Vincent Li pull out a knife, a big hunting knife. He took off the cover, turned right towards Tim, and just started stabbing him. Absolute chaos. A man on the same row leaped up, screaming at the driver, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" People were screaming, shouting, crying. Some were vomiting. Everyone scrambling towards the front, desperate to get away. Tim woke up during the attack, screaming. Witnesses said it was the most disturbing sound they'd ever heard. He tried to fight back, tried to climb over Lee to escape, but he fell into the aisle. And the stabbing just continued there, mercilessly. By the time the driver managed to pull the bus over, Tim had been stabbed, estimates say 50, maybe 60 times, but he was still screaming. Lee was described as being in a psychotic rage, just completely lost to reality. The man had first yelled at the driver. He actually went back, rescued his girlfriend and 3 others trapped behind the attack, an elderly woman, her son, his wife. They had to physically climb over seats to get out. Everyone, except Tim and Lee, managed to get off the bus. The driver did the right thing, immediately locked the doors and immobilized the bus. Outside, it was just Pandemonium. People panicking, crying, throwing up, some were having fits. Just pure trauma unfolding roadside.
It's that confinement, isn't it? The public nature trapped in that space, the horror right there, inescapable, creates instant, profound trauma. And right then, this truck driver, Chris O'Dwyer, sees the commotion. He pulls over, grabs a heavy metal bar from his truck. He, the bus driver, and another passenger cautiously approach the bus door. What they saw inside, it was, well, beyond comprehension. Lyle was still snapping Tim. They knew instantly nothing could be done for Tim. He'd been stabbed, they thought, way over 100 times by then. Lyle stopped for a moment, looked at them. His gaze was just empty, expressionless, didn't say a word, and then Lyle knelt over Tim and began to behead him.
Oh, God.
The men at the door were just frozen. Shock, fear, paralyzed. After Lyle finished, he held the head in one hand, the knife in the other, and started walking towards them, towards the front door. That's when the adrenaline must have hit. They realized, fighting him was hopeless. Protecting the others outside was the priority. They ran back from the door and barricaded it. Knew no one else was alive inside with him. It was a desperate but necessary act.
The police had been called, of course, but it's a highway. It took time for them to get there. And while they waited, Vincent Li walked calmly to that barricaded front door. And he just displayed Tim's head and the knife. Showed it to the men on the other side, then turned around and went back into the bus. For a while, he apparently marched up and down the aisle holding the head, displaying it to the terrified passengers outside, even to cars driving past on the highway, like it was some kind of trophy. It's sickening. The first police officers arrived, but they made a call, wait for the SWAT team, wait for orders. So for another 4 hours, Vincent Li stayed on that bus, and during that time he continued to cut pieces from Tim's body and eat them.
The police assessment was that he was in a deep psychotic state, a psychotic rage. Their strategy, controversial perhaps, but their reasoning was that waiting might allow him to calm down slightly, increasing the chances of an arrest without more violence, either to officers or potentially him taking his own life if they stormed the bus immediately.
At one point, he even got into the driver's seat, tried to drive the bus away. But thankfully, the immobilizer kicked in. The bus wouldn't start, prevented things from getting even worse somehow. Eventually, all the passengers were taken to police stations. They needed trauma support. Even some of the first officers on scene needed it later. Finally, around 1:30 in the morning, 5 hours after the attack started, Lynn tried to break a back window to escape. That's when they moved in, tased him twice, wrestled him down, handcuffed him, took him away, the forensic teams. What they found on that bus was just horrific. Bits of Tim McLean's body scattered everywhere. In Lee's pockets, they found Tim's ear, his nose, and his tongue. His eyes and part of his heart were never recovered, believed to have been consumed.
And when you look into Lane's background, the why becomes, well, not understandable in any rational sense, but attributable to severe mental illness. It's a chilling picture of a complete psychotic break. He was 41, an immigrant from China working 3 jobs. But the timeline is bizarre. He'd taken that exact same bus route, Edmonton to Winnipeg, just 24 hours earlier.
The day before.
The day before. He lived in Winnipeg. That was his destination. But he got off the bus 8 hours early in Erickson. Paid for the whole trip, but got off early. It turns out Lyle was an undiagnosed schizophrenic, a severe condition affecting thoughts, feelings, behavior, often involving hallucinations, delusions. He was hearing voices. He believed it was God giving him orders. The voice told him to get off the bus in Erickson. Days before that, the voice warned him someone would try to kill him. That's why he bought the hunting knife. For self-defense, in his mind.
So he just waited in Erickson.
For 24 hours. Sat on a bench, waiting for more orders, acting strangely. At one point, he apparently pulled the knife, thinking about attacking some truck drivers he thought were moving too slow, but they drove past. Witnesses saw him awake all night, just sitting bolt upright on that bench, eyes wide open at 3 a.m. The next morning, he did something really strange. Put out a laptop, said it was for sale, $600, then sold it to a 16-year-old kid for just $60. That was the only person he spoke to the entire time he was there. Still no orders from the voice, apparently, so he just decided, okay, I'll take the next bus to Winnipeg, which happened to be the bus Tim McLean was on.
And choosing Tim, did he ever say why?
No clear reason given. Some speculate it was simply because Tim was the only one who spoke to him, acknowledged his presence. Then at 8:20 p.m., the voice came back. After being silent for 24 hours, the voice, God in his mind, told him, kill Tim McLean now.
And the dismemberment. The cannibalism.
According to Leigh, after the murder, the voice told him he had to dismember the body, dispose of it. Otherwise, Tim would come back to life and kill him. Eating parts of the body in his fractured reality was the only way he could ensure Tim couldn't come back, especially since he was locked on the bus. It's profoundly disturbing logic born from psychosis.
This story, understandably, it just exploded. Worldwide news. The sheer horror of it. Identifying Tim was difficult because of the state of his body. His mother, Carol, she heard the first news reports that morning. No victim named yet. She was working. She was a chef at a senior citizen's home. She described having this awful feeling, a pit in her stomach. She even said to one of the residents, that could have been my son, because she knew he was traveling that route. She prayed for the victim's family, having no idea. Tim's father, Tim Sr., he was actually out getting fried chicken, Tim's favorite food. When he got home, friends were there, looking very serious. They took him inside, showed him a news report online. They'd found Tim's ID on the bus. It was him. Tim Sr. then had the terrible task of calling Carol to tell her, legally, what happened. Vincent Li was found not criminally responsible in CR. It's a finding in Canadian law. It means that due to his severe schizophrenia, he couldn't understand what he was doing was morally or legally wrong. Lacked criminal intent.
Right. So not prison. He was sent to a secure psychiatric hospital. Ironically, Lease apparently expected, even wanted to be executed. He thought that's what God wanted for him after the act. But Canada doesn't have the death penalty. He reportedly had ongoing suicidal thoughts while hospitalized.
The fallout was huge. Greyhound, they had this incredibly ill-timed ad campaign running. The slogan was, "There's a reason you've never heard of boring." They pulled it immediately, of course. And then PETA, the animal rights group, tried to run this ad campaign comparing Tim's murder to eating animals. It was universally condemned, refused by media outlets, just seen as horrifically disrespectful and insensitive.
And this really forces that difficult conversation, doesn't it? How does the justice system handle extreme violence when severe mental illness is clearly the driver? It's that constant tension between public safety, the need for justice for the victim, and the rights and treatment needs of someone profoundly unwell. There were lawsuits later. In 2011, 2 female passengers sued Greyhound, the police, the government, for $3 million each, claiming psychological damage, arguing the police should have intervened sooner. But strangely, both suits were dropped in 2015. No clear reason why.
And then came the part that really shocked many people. Vincent Li's release.
Yes. In 2012, only 4 years after the attack, he was deemed stable enough for unsupervised day trips from the hospital. Then, February 2016, just over 7 years after the murder, he was granted an absolute discharge, completely free, and he was given a new name, Will Baker. And crucially, no criminal record attached to that new identity.
No criminal record after all that.
None. Which, understandably, raised huge concerns. How do you balance rehabilitation with public safety when the record is effectively wiped clean and the trauma ripples outwards? In July 2014, one of the very first police officers on that horrific scene died by suicide. The PTSD was directly linked to what he witnessed that night. So, the release without a record, it leaves this lingering question about long-term treatment effectiveness, risk assessment, and whether society can ever be truly assured of safety in such extreme cases.
The story of Tim McLean is it's a stark reminder, isn't it? How thin that line is between order and chaos, and the devastating impact untreated severe mental illness can have on everyone. It really makes you think. As Vincent Li, now Will Baker, lives freely without that record, what does that say about our ideas of justice, rehabilitation? And how do we deal with the shadows these kinds of acts leave behind? What's the balance between protecting the public and supporting those struggling with profound mental health issues? It's a tough question with no easy answers.
Absolutely. The legacy here isn't just the horror of that one night on the bus. It's this ongoing, difficult conversation society needs to have about protecting vulnerable people, both potential victims and those in the grips of severe mental health crises, and how incredibly complex, often deeply uncomfortable it gets when those two needs seem to collide.
If this deep dive has given you something to think about or shed light on this complex and tragic story, maybe share it with someone else who appreciates understanding these difficult issues. You can find more explorations like this by following The Deep Dive wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate you listening, your support, and your curiosity. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Goodbye for now.